Before we begin, here's how to earn continuing professional education credit for attending this session. Gain valuable insights by attending the podcast, then complete the assessment test to download your certificate. To do this, follow these simple steps. Click on the link in your description to access the session. Create a free account and attend the podcast. After the podcast, take the assessment test and download your certificate. It's easy, and it's free. We highly recommend checking out our subscription.
So let's talk about thinking about the future. So a little bit more forward thinking. There's a lot of AI. Everybody's talking about technology. In your opinion, what are the most significant challenges leaders will face in maintaining a healthy work-life balance for themselves and also in making sure that their team also has that while meeting the demands of a more dynamic, technology-driven workplace? What are the biggest challenges you think everyone's going to face?
Okay, so there's a lot in that. And it ties back to what you just said, that people and managers are saying, we're also focused on what I need to do.
Right.
The problem is it's what you need to do for me. And that's the wrong lens. It's the same thing, and it ties into AI. It's what you need to do for me, which is where we are right now. You need to get up here. You need to get fluffed and commute and come and get your butt in the office. I don't care if you don't talk to people all day, but you need to do that for me. This is where it needs to flip, right? What we need to do together, we need as a team. So pick a few people from your organization. What scares you about AI? Look at the New Jersey and the Port Authority strike. Massive, massive strike. All of those labor workers, dock workers, they were fighting for more income, right? Not surprising. But what they were also fighting for is a guarantee that automation would not come to the ports to take their jobs.
Yep. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of HR Next, Unpacking Trends and Talent Innovations. This is our monthly dive into the evolving world of human resources. I'm Aileen Zaballero, and I'll be your host today. And I'm excited to introduce to you one of our guest speakers this month, Dr. Loralyn Mears. Dr. Mears received her PhD in molecular biology from Case Western as a serial entrepreneur. In 2024, LinkedIn awarded Loralyn with the top voice in leadership development, an honor that less than 100 people out of 800 members only has. She was also recognized as an innovator in talent development for empowering leaders globally through her award-winning work, impact through research, and adaptive leadership and soft skills. Lastly, she is the founder of Steerus, a professional development service company that focuses on making workplaces more productive and less toxic. She's also one of the creators of Helpopedia. Loralyn, welcome, and thank you so much for joining me today. I know that your background was extensive and prolific, but when I read it, I'm just reading it right now, and it's like, wow, I only read a quarter of your bio. It's so impressive, and you've accomplished so much. So I think the first question I have for you is, can you share with everyone what drives your passion and what fuels your motivation to work so hard?
Caffeine. No, but thank you for such a wonderful and really warm introduction and the chance to be on this show here, Lean. You are certainly no slouch either, and all of the work that you've done organizational, and I know development. I always want on there, but organization development, it's fantastic, right? You've been part of so many different groups and moving the needle. And that relates to how I want to answer the question, what drives and motivates me? I want to make a difference.
Right.
That's really it. With Helpopedia and the nonprofit side, helping underserved youth have the opportunity to be able to learn about entrepreneurship and internship prep and get placements. That's Helpopedia, youth development. And then with my business, really helping not only government groups, but small businesses. Really, the small businesses are the ones that need it. How do you lead through uncertainty? What do you do if you have operational challenges? That stuff, because as a small business owner myself, I get the churn and spin, and it's never a good thing. And today, October 10th, being Mental Health Day, it's really important to recognize that entrepreneurs are 5 times more likely to suffer from anxiety, depression, and burnout.
Well, right.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know the mental health day, so it's perfect that we're kind of talking about some of these things. We're going to focus first on navigating the skill disruption. I mean, we've talked about that quite a bit. The ability to manage and adapt to the changes that are happening and that are required for the work, for the future of work, especially with AI being the most prevalent. Everybody's talking about AI all the time. And then we're also going to talk about the pursuit of happiness, which is really kind of, I think, goes along with the ideas of mental wellness and health. But let's focus first on the skill disruption. We both talked about this article before. According to the Future of Jobs report, I think was published last year, it's estimated that about almost 44% of workers are expected to be disrupted in the next 5 years. So that's going to require almost 60% of workers needing training by 2027. What strategies should leaders adopt to ensure that their teams remain competitive and future ready?
Well, I have a few ways to answer that. So, a couple of things, right? So, first off, on that skills gap, if you look at a number of different indices, you look at what are the top 5 jobs forecast for the decade ahead. And year over year, decade over decade, there was a lot of consistency through the 60s, 70s, into the 80s, 90s. We started to see some change, the influence of technology. Then we turned into the century here in the 21st century. And what we've seen is just rapid change, that the top
Hmm.
5 jobs don't exist in the next decade. And
Right,
that is so significant because if those jobs don't exist and they've gone away within the span of 5 to 10 years, what are people doing? Well, they need to upskill. They need to do something else and be something else because their job no longer exists. Or as a student who's gone through schooling, they come out and they expect to be in that job, but your job's gone away in 5 years. What do you do?
right.
Then to ask sort of the second part of the question, which is in and around, well, how do you prepare as a leader, knowing that all of this stuff is happening? A lot of companies don't have endless budgets, right? They can't sit there and say, oh, okay, let's just train everybody. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll hire an executive coach for everybody. We'll hire a life coach too. Let's see what else can we do. Oh, we'll send everybody with tuition certificates. We'll give everyone an MBA. I mean, come on, right? That doesn't happen.
Right,
I've worked for a number of Fortune 100s and they weren't rolling out the executive MBAs or anything of that either. Even some of the workshops and tuition, pretty minimal with respect to what they reimbursed. So, what can you do as the leader under the assumption that you don't have a lot of budget? And also under the assumption that small businesses, right, that there's 33 million in this country, they make up 99% of all businesses, they have one to a few employees. So what do you do? The best thing, whether you're at a small company or at a big company, is look at the people that you do have.
mm,
Do you want to retain them? Okay, that's the first big question. Because if you can't answer that with an affirmative, that exam question, well, then make no effort and hopefully they move along, right? Because they're not going to serve you for long term.
right.
Then dig in and don't look at the job role. Look at the job skills that they have. What are the
Hmm,
things that they can do? And then ask them, what are the things you like to do? What would you like to do given the chance?
hmm,
And if the stretch is not too massive, because of course you can't go from potentially somebody who's working in your office and they're an accountant and they're introverted and they are, again, I'm stereotyping, but they're introverted. They are very focused, like scholastically, they're lifelong learners and they're studying and they say, I want to be a YouTube influencer. It's a really big gap. Now, could they get there? Yeah, but it might take a lot of work. It's not, doesn't fit with their personality and who they are. So that's what I would suggest folks do is take a really good look at the skills, forget about job titles, forget about department, forget about all of that, and then ask the person as a human being, what do you like doing? What do you not like doing? What do you wish you could do?
Yeah. That's one thing that we don't often ask people, right? We give them the skills that we think that they need. And a lot of times they try to retrofit themselves into something that doesn't really quite align with them, doesn't align with their vision, their goals, or even their own aspirations.
Do you want to earn CPE credit? Take this course of MyCPE ONE to earn free credit. Click the link in the description to get started.
Right. Because there's that metric. Maybe they're just collecting the paycheck.
Right.
Right. You look at the level of ennui, like, and just malaise that's pervasive in a lot of parts of society globally. This isn't a unique phenomenon here. And then you look at it at the level of the culture within your company. Are they just there and collecting their check? Are they
Right.
making an effort? Do they want to see improvement? Are they contributing to the culture? Are they doing that little bit extra to make things work better and the deliverable shines and sparkles? So when a client receives it, they go, this is amazing versus why are there 86 spelling errors in the first paragraph? Right?
Right. Right. You're talking a lot about some of these soft skills, right? Um, what do you believe is the most critical soft skill? Let's talk about the leaders first themselves. What do you think leaders need to develop in regards to this era of rapid change? What do they need to be, and what kind of skills, soft skills, do they need to have?
As much as I'd like to say, oh, it's emotional intelligence, because if you can't read the room and you don't have self awareness to understand where you are, I'd say that's number two.
Mm,
And with number three being communication. So, drum roll it back to number one in this era, adaptability.
yeah.
If you cannot dig in, build your resilience, find a
Mm,
way to be able to read the tea leaves, what's out there within the market, what can you do, what adjustments can you make, how flexible can you be, how open are you to receiving feedback that maybe this shouldn't be working or you should try this. If you're not ready for that level of adaptation, right, a la Charles Darwin, right, like adapt or die.
right. Well, how do you develop adaptability? I mean, especially for somebody who may be a type A personality, who likes
Oh
things
yes,
this way, how do you support them to be more adaptable?
that is really the critical question, because most of the type A's, they're going to do it. This is the way I've done it. I've always worked this way. Type A's do respond to data. So if you can present and say, oh, let's look at the metrics, whatever the metrics are. They may be as simple as vanity metrics, where you look at your social media following or social media engagement levels, and it's really dipped. Or it may be something much more informative and insightful, like your financials. Where have they gone with the
Mm,
business? The
right.
number of customers, the number of negative complaints on Google or Yelp or whatever it is. You can look at all of those things and present them and say, look, this is, we're starting to see some patterns here. They're not good. So we need to make some changes. And then, of course, competitive intelligence. Can you find examples where the competitors that were in your swim lane, where you were all doing right front crawl, and now, oh, wait, competitor two and competitor five, this one's doing backstroke and this
Oh,
one's
okay.
doing right breaststroke or the butterfly now. How come we're not doing these different things? We're still doing the front crawl with all the other ones that are coming down.
Huh. So those are really
Data.
important points for being a resilient organization, right? So for the leaders. But what about the people on their team? What do those people need to have? What do they also need to be as adaptable? Are there other skill sets that you
Yes.
think are more important for them?
Again, I still think it is the same one, two, three, that they need that adaptability too. How often have I seen it with my clients or other people, coworkers? No, it's not my job. That's not my description. No,
Right.
it's not in there. I'm not doing it. Right.
Right.
Well, that's the first problem. And then you get into it and say, well, emotional intelligence, if there was a heightened level of emotional awareness where they recognized that by doing that pushback or that whatever resistance that they have
Mm.
to any of the changes and things, that what they're doing is they're compromising their own, sorry, a little dog barking in the background. Sorry.
Okay.
That they're compromising not only their potential personal future with the organization, but they may be compromising the team, the department, or the organization as a whole. So they need that level of emotional intelligence and awareness. And then, of course, communication. If you can't communicate what you need or what you're observing that could be a possible way to change and create more potential opportunities for the organization or the department or the team, whatever level that you're looking at, then you're going to be in trouble.
So, your site Steeris does a lot of assessment for helping people identify. Can you talk a little bit more about Steeris and how that can help somebody develop some of these skills?
Thank you, Pete. I'd love to talk about stairs. I appreciate the opportunity. We received a grant from the New Jersey Commission on Science, Innovation, and Technology. So, thank you.
Congratulations.
And along with that, we also received a formal award and recognition from New Jersey's Governor Murphy, who celebrated us for our innovation that we have in teaching and training and leadership development. So I'm grateful for that. But what it all led to is that it allowed us to create an infrastructure from a code base in our e-learning platform, as well as all of the data analytics and the reporting structure that we needed so that we could rapidly generate custom assessments to look at different dimensions of what people needed. The core work that we did, and we still haven't published it, was all on soft skills and employability. So we surveyed hundreds of thousands of people and got the answers. What are the employers looking for? What are they not seeing? What level of soft skills do people think that they have? And how is that correlated with their potential for employment, either on the first round or sustained, that they stay within the company? So we've got all of that data. But getting back to the assessments and things and what we do, with this infrastructure we have in place now, we have assessments like, are you coachable? Small business health check. Do you have a mushy middle? Right? And we're not talking about this one. We're talking about middle management as a layer. And so
Right.
companies that are larger and have that middle infrastructure, you can see that the writing is really on the wall. Look at even Amazon. Just recently, in the last week or two, they said they're going to eliminate 14,000 middle manager positions.
Mm.
So if you've got weakness and mushiness in there, there's ways that you need to be able to address that to give them the strength. We have, are you ready for entrepreneurship? And I think that assessment actually should start off with, like, are you a glutton for punishment? Because it's a long road, right? Ready for the marathon? It's not a sprint. And all of these assessments like this, and we couple that with the ability to support you. So doing some business analysis and looking at like SOAR, your strengths, opportunities, aspirations, and then results, getting people strategically on the path in a very, very quick and simple and actionable way, or taking things all the way to, all right, so now we've told you how to get there, but you're still struggling, providing fractional services and CXO or CEO, where E is everything officer. So you pay one fee and you get, well, maybe this month you need a lot of chief marketing officer, maybe you need a lot of chief operating officer or chief finance officer or chief technology officer this month. And we can modulate that based on your needs and how your business is evolving. So that's what we do.
That's awesome. I read earlier that you're a serial entrepreneur. So as an entrepreneur, you've had success in reskilling your team and your staff. What advice would you give to some leaders who are doing the same, or an entrepreneur who's looking to build their own business? How do they keep their skills abreast for their team and the members and their employees?
Read.
Mm.
And everybody's like, oh, time I don't have time to read.
Nobody reads anymore. Everybody does podcasts, hence here we are for them.
Hey, that's a way to learn too, right? And
Right.
especially audio learners, that's how they learn best is something like this versus picking up a book.
Right.
But
Very true.
make a point, and maybe I shouldn't say read, I should say learn. So I'm going to roll that
Ah.
back and say learn. Whatever your modality is that
Mm.
best suits you, go out there. I am an avid reader. I consume at least 2 or 3 business books a month, at
Wow.
least. Plus, I read umpteen numbers of online articles from all of the usual suspects that you'd think to get good information from. And what I like to do is let all of that stick in my head. And then I think about things in a visual way. We were talking about infographics and that earlier, and say, how does this map out? And I do the trend spotting. What does this mean? What is this really telling me? And I think about that. And that's what I believe all business owners need to look at and their employees. And I miss the days, this is where I come back from that whole lab environment, where every Friday you'd have to take turns. Instead of a book report, you'd have a scientific article readout, and each person would have to, the person who was presenting the article would have obviously had to study it in advance, shared it with the team in advance, and then they had to bring the beer and or wine. And we'd sit there Friday afternoon and okay, you could say, oh, yes, there was a little bit of pontificating and some, puffery and all of this kind of things as people were trying to make statements to sound smarter than their fellow graduate students or professors or whatever. But aside from that, the practice is really good. And I wish businesses would uphold it. Say, hey, every Friday, maybe it's a virtual drink, maybe it's a virtual coffee, right? We have coffee together in the morning. Great, whatever it is. And that they had this practice where the person who, whatever article they read that week, talks about it. How does it impact the business? Why do we need to know this? What could be
Right.
different now that we know this? Would be huge.
Access latest and trending CPE courses with my CPE One Unlimited Access subscription. Subscribe now.
But
Thank you.
let's shift to the focus on happiness, right? I mean, we've been working on this other project, and one of the big central pieces of that is about happiness. And right now, I think they just released, I think it was just last month, right? The World Happiness Report for 2024. And it reveals that there's a growing disparity in happiness. And
Yeah.
as you know, in the report, they rank the countries. And Finland has consistently been ranked at the happiest country. I'm looking forward to one day visiting Finland to find out what they have over there.
It's
But
lovely. Yeah.
Denmark and Iceland are also in the top. And if I remember correctly, you're Canadian, right?
I am.
And so, and according to the report, the US is ranked number 23, but Canada's number 15. So, thinking about the whole idea of happiness and being such an important factor both globally and even in our country, what factors are contributing to the highest levels of stress among employees? And how does this stress impact well-being and productivity?
I think everything shifted when we entered into a gig economy.
Uh, okay.
And understandably, there's financial pressures. So that's why people started embracing giggery so that they could pay all of the bills and things. But then you can argue that some of that bill payment was to pay for extras, right? Things that were beyond the necessities. You've got your $7 or $8 iced coffee every day that you're paying for, and then you go out for lunch and things. And like, well, maybe if you brought your lunch, maybe it wouldn't cost as much, right? And so you can make some savings and cuts. So you wouldn't have to gig. And because you're gigging, you're so stressed and you've got all of these extra things. And then what I've seen happen too is that with the pandemic, things changed with the number of small businesses. So every year, pretty steadily prior to the pandemic, and I will answer the question about happiness, but I think this is all related. Here's the context. So that prior to the pandemic, to 2019, 2010 to 2019, 1.2, 1.3, 1.5 million new businesses formed in the US every year. It's 2020, 2.2 million. 2021, 4.4
Mm,
million.
right.
2022, right? pardon me, 2023, almost 5.5 million. And 2024, we're on track for 6 million. So many people are starting their own businesses, and
Mm.
we're going down this path of it's multiple businesses. We don't just have one business, it's this and it's that. And I think that the level of peanut butter spreading that we have to do to go all the way across it is really creating a lot of stress. We don't have that downtime and zone in between because as soon as we have any spare time, oh yeah, I finished my 9 to 5, my day now. I got to get on this, I got to get on that. And then we're all trying to keep up and just hustling and hustling. And I think that's bringing our level of happiness down. I also think that with the rise of YouTubers and influencers, we see this meticulously curated slice of someone's life.
Mm.
And we
Yeah.
think, oh, wow, she's fabulous. She's 65. She doesn't look a day over 30. What is she doing? Well, she's got X injections of Botox and this and that and all of these other things. And she gets vampire facials once a week. And she's, all of this stuff that's going into it. And we think, that's the standard.
Mm.
And
Right.
we judge ourselves to that standard.
Right.
And so happiness is declining also because we're doing everything through the screen. We don't have that personal connection time anymore. We're not making friends. Relationships have become transactional.
Right. Right.
We've
Yep.
lost that depth. And so, yeah. And I think, and it's funny, well, ironic, I don't know what word you want to use, but you talk about the pursuit of happiness. That was a Canadian band, loved them, and they had their song, One Man Army. And I think it really speaks to actually, ironically, how we can't pursue happiness because we are one man armies. We've become this
Uh,
me world. We're all on our own. We feel like it's us against the world. So we don't have others to lean on. We're not happy. We're burnt out trying to make it all happen.
so what's the solution? I mean, what do we do? How do people, I mean, sometimes it's hard to, and I'd love to be able to see you and give you a hug and, clink our wine glasses together. But what is the solution in regards to creating more connections and relationships, even if it's virtual?
I think it starts at home. I really believe everybody should have a pet, a rescue. Not a designer dog or anything. Mine's a super mutt. She's got 9 breeds in her and she's fabulous. I
Right.
did the DNA test. I was like, oh, she's not. So I think that's really important because it's a source of companionship. Dog or cat can be wonderful that you have that. And there's nothing quite like it when you come home and it's not an empty house and there's just some little furry happy face waiting to greet you. So I think that can do a lot. I think getting outside, go embrace. I mean, the Japanese talk about forest bathing and
Right.
just having, right, that sense of being surrounded by nature and beautiful things. Right, all the leaves are turning color up here in the Northeast now. You go outside and you smell that fresh air, or when you're going and you're hiking, and depending on what area you're in, you might smell the wonderful odors of people making breakfast and things. You can smell the bacon and eggs, you can smell the coffees, you can smell the chimney smoke, and it's just embrace it and be out there. And you will see other people on the hiking trails, and generally, people are friendly. You'll chit chat for a little bit. Oh yeah, look at there, look at that little view. Oh, that's nice, great. Yeah, I come up here all the time. Hey, what other trails do you go on? Right? You just have some of that human connection
Yeah.
and get the value add of being outdoors in nature, being athletic, walking, giving yourself some time to think and some space and grace to do it. I firmly believe those are the 2 things that should start every single day in person. Get a pet and get outside and do some hiking, some walking, and just be in the outdoors where other people are. I made a tremendous shift because I was completely burned out. So by
Mm.
the time the summer started here, I said, Loralyn, you can't do this, right? You don't ever see sunlight. My skin glows obnoxious white. I mean, it's just Like the reflective qualities are terrifying because they haven't seen my legs and body parts haven't seen sun in
Yeah.
years.
Right.
And that's not a good thing. And then just working all those hours and churning, I said, no, I've got to do things differently. And that's part of what I did. I started really taking my own advice that I give leaders when I do the leadership training and how to lead through uncertainty. Said, all right, start with yourself. And it's not selfish. Just look at what you have going on. What are your eating and drinking habits? What have they become? Are you getting outside? Are you doing any exercise? Of course, every morning I walk my dog, but I thought, well, I've got to do more than that. So I shifted everything this summer, reorganized my business, how I prioritize my time, and I embrace two things: ruthless prioritization and
Mm.
radical optimism. Back to the point of the happiness thing. Those are my mantras. I hold on to those and say, all right, what can I do today? What can I do differently? I use my Pomodoro method, 25 minutes, full focus, 5 minutes, break. I'll run outside on the grass in my bare feet with my dog. We'll throw the ball around. She's happy. I'm happy. You get that sensation of warm and grass and being grounded by touching nature and being outside. Every weekend, I go hiking with my fiance, and it's just, I mean, we use, as much as we try to go on the same trails, it's never the same trail twice because none of them are well marked and we're always lost in the woods, which is one of my greatest fears. But anyway, that we do that, and it's made a huge difference
Yeah, I can
in
imagine.
my
Yeah.
health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I could see that. Well, let's tie this conversation back to the employee happiness. Thinking about work-life balance, that's always been part of the discussions for a really long time in HR. But how is work-life balance playing into employee happiness, and how does HR and organizational leaders supports this kind of balance?
I think a lot of it comes back down to that flexibility.
Mm.
And the challenges and where this is happening is that so many employers are saying, yeah, we need your butt in the office. But then you do the whole thing, right? The morning routine, get up early, get the kids ready for school, this, that, walk the dog, do all of the stuff, shower, fluffed, like the whole thing, right? Get into the car, the commute. If you're like me on the New Jersey Turnpike for at least an hour and a half until you get anywhere, right? And you go through all of that, you finally, you arrive at the office. Meanwhile, you've already lived 5 lives and it's not even 8 a.m. yet. You get there, nobody's happy, nobody's coffee's kicked in. So you're trying to do that. All right, fine. And then you get to the office, and what happens? Everybody's in their pods or cubicles and that anyway. They're pinging you on Teams. And so you're still not connecting and being together.
Yeah,
So you leave at the end of the day and go, what was the point of that? And
true.
then you reverse all of the things, right? Go home, defluff this, that, feed the kid, like the whole thing, and get up and do it again. And so employees are saying, wait a minute, can you give me more flexibility? I would really like to be able to do this.
Mm.
And I think it behooves business owners or managers, line of business leaders to really figure that out and have a very concrete set of reasons why it makes more sense to have that person in the office.
Mm.
Now, obviously there's some jobs. If you're a mechanic, you can't do my oil change from your house. Like you can't. You got to be at the garage, right?
Right.
So there's some things, your healthcare worker, all of these things, but there's ways to be able to create that flexibility. And again, I think it's moving to that more of that one-on-one uniqueness that's out there. And this is the book that I've been researching for the last 2 years and kind of getting close to getting that done and getting that out, that I want to present a new model on how you engage people one on one and
Mm.
create what is good for the individual, but even greater for the organization. And
Right.
I think there are modalities to be able to do that.
We've tried to solve a lot of problems, especially in the workplace, with training. If that doesn't work, let's go train them, which that's not necessarily always the right approach. But the happiness report also indicated that there's a decline in life satisfaction,
Yes.
especially in this younger generation. So how can leadership development, which you're really known for, and also other professional development programs focus on improving not just professional skills, but how can they foster a sense of personal fulfillment? How do they bring that into the ethos and the culture of the organization?
Again, I think it has to be a blend. So the
Mm,
first thing, the virtual and the online stuff, saturated and not working. You look at Coursera, LinkedIn Learning,
yeah.
Udemy for Business, all of that. Employers are dropping those programs as benefits. They've been around for the last few years. Oh, this is a great benefit for our
Uh-huh.
employees. We'll pay for it because they're getting less than 5% utilization. People don't care. Like I really don't want to learn. And what are the things that are most popular that employees are learning with those programs? How to play guitar, how to play piano, how to paint. And so you look at that and it's much, well, yeah, okay, like let's giggle. It's not about like, how can I communicate better? How can I do a better presentation? It's no, I want to learn how to play piano because people are looking for more depth and ways to have enrichment.
Huh.
And tie it back to your question, when I do the leadership development on site, in person, it's a huge difference. People are there. You can do team building. You can read people, how they're reacting to it. You can adjust in real time. If this isn't working, let's shift to this, let's do this. And you bring in all of those elements because we're whole people, right? It's not just, hey, it's your career and get this done and get this done for the company and get this done for me as the manager. You're a human being. And I always bring that part into my training and say, do you know when you're talking to your coworker, do you know if she had a really rough night? Maybe she's
Mm,
a single mom and her kid
right,
vomited all night everywhere, right?
right,
Show a little grace,
right.
right? Things are maybe a little tough for her. You don't know that. You're not connecting in. People have these personal lives. They have aspirations, right? What do you want to do? I'd really, really like to go back to school and do whatever. I didn't know that. Are you pursuing education? Are you starting some courses? What would you like? What what do you want to do? What fulfills you, right? What is your vision in life's purpose? Okay, financially, you've got some stuff there, education, you've got some career, but that health and well being. Are you sitting home working 18 hours a day on your laptop and never going outside to the point where your
Yeah,
skin would just light on fire if a sun ray touched it, right?
right.
That was
Yeah,
not good.
right. Well, you mentioned a couple of different things, like really about the conversation with the leaders, with their staff and employees. Are there any other practices that you found that are effective in empowering employees so that they're focusing both not just their profession, but also their personal lives so that, whatever happens at home is also impacting you at work? Is there any practices that you can recommend?
Again, just back to that training and even to the last question that when you have that opportunity in person and training isn't everything because when you're in a group, a lot of people feel uncomfortable, but you create the opportunities where you collect scenarios that are happening at work, collect them, anonymize them, and then talk about how you should deal with them. Hey, leaders, there are some people in your organization who said that they're not getting that respect that they need. They're having a really hard time. They've got elder care challenges and they just need some more flexibility. They can't be there. They've got the appointment here, the appointment there, and as much as they know that they have to deliver on their job, they need a little latitude. And how do you have that conversation? You, as the employee, and we'll teach you this is a way to be able to approach it. And hey, leader, when your employee comes to you and says it that way, don't react like this. This is how you need to react. Put your human hat on, right? You're a human being because maybe one day you're going to have to collect from that karma bank and ask your employees for a little latitude because you've got stuff going on.
So let's talk about thinking about the future. So a little bit more forward thinking. There's a lot of AI. Everybody's talking about technology. In your opinion, what are the most significant challenges leaders will face in maintaining a healthy work-life balance for themselves and also in making sure that their team also has that while meeting the demands of a more dynamic, technology-driven workplace. What are the biggest challenges you think everyone's going to face?
Okay, so there's a lot in that. And it ties back to what you just said, that people and managers are saying, we're also focused on what I need to do.
Right.
The problem is, it's what you need to do for me.
Mm.
And that's the wrong lens. It's the same thing, and it ties into AI. It's what you need to do for me, which is where we are right now. You need to get up here. You need to get fluffed and commute and come and get your butt in the office. I don't care if you don't talk to people all day, but you need to do that for me. You need to, this is where it needs to flip, right? What we need to do together, we need as a team. So pick a few people from your organization. What scares you about AI? Look at the New Jersey and the Port Authority strike. Massive, massive strike. All of those
Mhm.
labor workers, dock
Right.
workers, they were fighting for more income, right? Not surprising. But what they were also fighting for is a guarantee that automation would not come to the ports to take their jobs.
Yep.
This is real, right? This is the kind of thing that's happening. And so when you look at it and roll it back and say, what are the challenges with AI? There are things at an existential threat level, right? We had Nobel Prize laureate Professor Hilton talk about that. If we are going down this path, we are going to eclipse humanity. We need to put guardrails on. So that's one path. But then at the level of an organization and what you need to do as a leader and the employees who are faced with AI is have those group discussions. How do we want to bring it in? How can it help us? What can we learn from it? How can it make us better? And then there has to be the follow-up through it, because what I'm seeing is, okay, employers are saying, yeah, go take that quick little course there, learn how to use AI, be a little more productive, get some ideas. If you're a writer, generate some new concepts for your social media posts at my marketing agency. Or if you are looking to try to do some basic coding, oh, go put some things through, get some the low level coding done for you, and it can help it speed up. But what's needs to happen, and what I'm not seeing happening, is that the challenge of being limited in productivity or being limited with respect to competitive advantage because you're not utilizing AI to make your people more productive is that if you don't close that loop and say, are your people still learning? Because it's really easy to hit the button, hit the button, hit the button, done, done. The technology and what people want and how to need it and that they fear it. And then,
You had mentioned, doing these different things in regards to making sure that people are not just focused on a task, right? So, are there any policies that you would recommend or that would support more this healthier work-life balance so that we're not so task-driven, and maybe something that would also support the whole idea of people being true to themselves about what their career aspirations really are?
I think a lot of it starts with the discussion. You've got
Mm.
to be made to feel comfortable to talk to your manager about this is what I'd like and what opportunities exist for me. And if the opportunity doesn't exist at the level of the employer to provide, i.e., we can put you into another job, we can pay your tuition or send you here or go to a training and development program, but can you as the manager offer flexibility? So if the employee says, look, I'm going to do this on my own. I've always wanted my education plan to have this degree or do this, but I need the flexibility. I need to be off Tuesday afternoons and Thursday afternoons when my class is or whatever, something like that. So that's where you can start to have that conversation and say, well, why is it that you are looking for these things? What do you need? What's missing? How can I help you as a manager? How can I help you as an employer? And how can I help you as a human being? Are
Mm.
there folks that I could maybe introduce you to in my network? You may want to do an informational interview. Are there other things that I can do? Can I guide you and talk about my personal experiences? Would that be helpful to you in mentoring you in some way? These are the kinds of conversations where if people started treating people like whole people, that we're
Huh.
multi-dimensional beings, that we've got things going on at home, we've got things going on in our hearts and in our heads, and we're trying to do things with our hands for work, that we've got to do all of that. I think
Right.
it would be different. A lot of companies don't even do performance reviews, and everybody hates the dreaded performance review anyway. Why not
Right.
just have conversations? Hey,
True.
where are you at? What's going on?
Right.
Talk to me.
No, just thinking about it too, though, I think the onus falls a little bit more back on the individual, right? So are they in the right place? Are they in the right organization? But we end up staying where we are a lot of times because of financial reasons or because we got a degree somewhere. And we've been talking about this with our group about this whole idea of wholeness in regards to
Mhm.
career, education, finance, and wellness. Can you talk a little bit more about what that really should look like and how individuals should really plan for what their future really can be, as opposed to what it has to be?
I think that's the magic word there, Lean. Plan.
Yeah,
Do people plan it out, or does everybody just go through the motions? It's so easy to get stuck in that routine, right? Groundhog Day. Set your alarm at this, get up, get showered, get fluffed, drink coffee, drive to work, da 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 da. Deal with the nonsense and all the people there that you hate, rinse, repeat.
right,
That we don't take time and we don't take ownership of our own lives. We'll do a better job planning who we're going to bet. Maybe it's some fantasy football or this or that or Super Bowl squares. And we'll be really diligent about that. And we're like, yeah, the odds are here, and this, and put all of that time. But what effort are we putting into planning our own lives and looking at all of those aspects of our life?
right,
First of all, your physical health. Where is that at? Can that be improved? Are you getting enough sunshine and vitamin D? Mental health. Are you burnt out? What's stressing you? What are your triggers? What are you running from? How can you address them? What help can you get? What help do you need?
mm,
Then you look at your finances. Maybe they're a hot mess. Maybe you're
right,
falling behind in some bills. Are there things that you can do and talk to advisors to help you plan or restructure out of debt, things like this? What can you do to take a little bit of that pressure off? Can you cut some of your spending and not go out for an expensive iced coffee and go out for lunch every day and grab takeout on the way home, right? There's some corners that you might have to cut, but you can get yourself out of debt. Then you want to look at education. Back to the beginning of our podcast here, we talked about, well, careers are shifting. They're not the same every 5 years. The careers we saw new are gone and they're replaced with new ones.
right,
Are there things that you need to be doing to retool? Go learn about those things. What would you have to do to be able to become at least proficient enough where you could provide that as a service or do that as a job? Is it something that you're interested in? Look around, research. So those are the things that I'd say. Shameless plug here for what we do. All of the assessments and reports that we put out are geared towards your score level.
right,
So there are actionable steps. Do this and do this and do this next. Not too many things. It's not an epistle, so you're going to be completely overwhelmed with all the stuff that's in there, but they are simple, actionable steps that you can do. And
right,
we urge you to do it and then
right,
follow up and say, hey, took that assessment a month ago, Lean. What are you doing? Have you
right.
done any of the steps yet? Why not?
Yeah, and we also talked about how, we talk about education, career, wellness, and finance. And a lot of times we operated those in silos. All right,
Yeah.
great. I'm working on my health because I'm going to the gym and I'm paying for this membership that I probably can't afford. I didn't quite check in my financial plan because it didn't quite align with it, and now I can't go to the gym anymore because I can't afford it. I mean, it's so common for us to try to work on one side and completely neglect and forget the other side. And I think this whole idea of wholeness is really critical and important for us.
It is, because if you add up all those pieces, right? W, well-being, education, E, C, career, finance, WECF. What does it equal? Life,
Yes, right.
right? That's what this is. It's our lives, and we need a life plan. We need to
Right.
figure out, especially when you've had some milestone event. A lot of people use a big birth, right? That's a big milestone. Say, okay, I got to look at things and do a hot take on what's going on with my life and put that mirror up and go, oh, okay, now what do I do? Right? This is my new reality. Or it's something you should also do when you've had a major event. Maybe you've been exited from an important relationship, like a divorce, something like that, or there's been a death in your family, or the birth of a child, or whatever it is. You've brought a pet into your household, right?
Right.
Something has shifted. You started a new job. What do you do? What's your plan now? How does your plan start to change?
Well, I'm looking forward to looking for those tools that you are using and creating and also what you're developing. But we're almost at the top of the hour. There's a couple of things, like in this era right now, it's all about digital, it's all about decentralized, it's all about diverse. And HR is no longer just about hiring and firing, it's really about forging the future. So in this podcast, our goal is to really kind of dissect some of the emerging trends. So thank you so much for being here. I have two closing questions. One, based on your expertise and your foresight, what advice would you give to HR professionals, organizational leaders on how they can navigate the current and pending skills disruption? And how can they still create a culture where happiness is not compromised?
I think it's reframing human
Mm.
resources. It's not just resources,
No, it's good.
right? For
Yeah.
the personnel, like
Right, right.
personnel resources. I love that people are taking on the responsibilities that go with being a chief people officer
Yeah,
because it's about people,
it is.
right? And people have all these dimensions to them, the crap going on at home, the stuff going on in the office, and we need to take a more individualized approach and look at that and say, what can we do? How can we help you? This has been shifting. How are you being impacted by it? What can we do to help? And then I think on the flip side, so the chief people officers can't do all the heavy lifting. The employees need to do some of the lifting. They
Good
need
point.
to take responsibility. Maybe they don't have the tools, they don't have the know-how, but you can provide that to them and the
Right.
guidance to keep them going so that they can start asking these critical life planning questions and pause long enough, stop the doom scrolling, right? Long enough to actually think about what you want in your life.
Yeah. Right. Great point. Great points. You also stated earlier that you're an avid reader. Are there any books or resources or thought leaders that you follow, maybe, that would be helpful in regards to preparing for the future?
Well, what I've been reading a lot on are small business operations, how to
Okay.
improve, how to connect. I'm rereading where it's on my table usually, Why She Buys. So it's all about the philosophy of making purchases, and as female purchasing power continues to grow,
Oh, wow.
understanding
That's
that
interesting.
psychology I think is really key. And so I've been looking at those things. The types of books and that I look for and like where is the advice? I like things that are distilled down really simply.
Mm,
And it doesn't mean it has to be down to a level of a few memes. I can handle a little bit more than that. But don't make it so overwhelming. I see two trends. Either people are trying to distill everything that they know and they want to make the message into one meme for a social media post, and it's so vacuous you can't get anywhere. It's not really helpful.
right.
Or like, let's stuff everything in because we want to get the 250-page book count. And then you've just got all this hyperbole that there's a lot of repetition. You don't need that. The books that I love that just take the chapter, they distill it down. Boom, here's the nuggets. Ah, gotcha. Yeah, I need these nuggets are good. I need the details now. Let me go into that chapter.
Well, that's the book that we're going to write in regards to this individual life plan. Well, Loralyn, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for sharing your time, your knowledge, and especially your insights. And so also for joining us on our 14th, this is our 14th podcast, Navigating Skill Disruption and the Pursuit of Happiness. And with that, this is a wrap. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Lean. You're amazing. Keep doing all of the wonderful things that you're doing.
You're awesome.
Access latest and trending CPE courses with my CPE One Unlimited Access subscription. Subscribe now.